Hello, I am Panos Kotzathanasis, and this is ASEAN Movie Pulse Interviews. Today I'm here with Daniel Hui, whose film Small Hours of the Night is currently screening in DocLisboa. How are you, Daniel?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your time. So, first question. Okay, the film focuses on two performers, but actually is about something much more. You have about your country's past in particular. And can you tell me a bit about this concept?
Yeah, so I had the idea of kind of filtering the, 60 years of history into a single night and having two characters basically be the nexus of, five different characters located within this history. And I mean, the reason is also I wanted to, instead of giving like a very broad, you know, overview of history. I wanted it to be something that is actually like, still similarly broad but condensed within something, a scale and a canvas that is very small. I mean, so hence the title Small Hours of the Night. So it's not this, I mean, of course it refers to, the late night, early morning hours where we usually are, between sleep and wakefulness, but also it refers to, the small things in life and also the small characters and the small details that we usually overlook. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, I read that the basis is a court case that took place in 1983, the Tan Chay Wa tombstone case. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, so Tan Chay Wa was a communist dissident who was involved in like an underground communist underground communist what do you call that, a network. So when he was wanted by the police in Singapore, he fled to Malaysia, and in Malaysia he was arrested with a weapon, and that was at the height of the communist emergency. So there was a guerrilla war between the communists and both the Singaporean and Malaysian governments. Um, so because of that, he was executed in Malaysia, and his body was sent back to Singapore. So Tan Chay Wa's brother, Tan Chu Boon, who is Singaporean, he erected a tombstone for his brother. And on the tombstone, he wrote an inscription that described his brother as like a martyr, a hero who died for his motherland. And that inscription got Tan Chu Boon into trouble, and he was arrested by the Singaporean government and charged with sedition, which is attempting to overthrow the government. Because the government, accused him of, I mean, the court accused him of advocating acts that were threatening national security interests by that tombstone inscription. So the movie kind of takes that as a starting point. I was interested in it because, of the absurdity of the situation of how a man can be charged for sedition just for something he wrote on a tombstone. I think it says a lot about censorship, that we can't even mourn our own dead, in a way to draw parallels also with the ancient Greek story of Antigone. And then, when we can't mourn our own dead, we are not, able to remember. And this loss of memory always affects us as a nation in Singapore. And so I wanted to kind of tell this story, memorialize all these people, and make this film a kind of belated collective mourning for Tan Chay Wa and also Tan Chu Boon, whose life was disrupted by this incident. And from there, try to think about how we remember history and how the loss of memory of history kind of still affects us today.
Mm-hmm. And how is the political situation and the social struggle right now in Singapore? How would you describe it?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
How is the political situation now in Singapore? How much has it changed since, let's say, 1980s?
Right, so we still the same ruling party is still in power, actually since independence and since the 1980s. So politically, I would say not much has changed. the reasons, but also that like I'm not very interested in doing like a very clear objective documentary because like I don't see, history as something that is objective and that we are not a part of, There's something that is in the past and something that has already been decided and settled, It's more, I see it more as like something that we are still very much involved in and that we always still have to, you know, kind of question our relationship with every time. And that's why I also introduced fiction into the film because I wanted to kind of use the fictional character of Vicky, as a kind of proxy for us, for me as a filmmaker and for the audience, for us to step into this world. And because what I'm interested is in how history still really affects us, or even if we don't know these things, even if they happen very far away in a place like Singapore,
Hmm.
for some people here, for example. I want it to be able to, I want us to be able to question what our relationship is to, what happened. And in that way, like, yeah, I'm not that interested in making an objective documentary because that puts a huge distance between, the filmmaker and the audience and the material. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And tell me a bit about the sound. Both sound design and the music are very important aspects of the film. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, so the sound design was an opportunity for us to kind of expand the world, right? Because the whole film takes place in one room and it's like visually it can be very claustrophobic, but like sound-wise, like we felt like it could be a way to help the space expand and contract. And also like while we were making the film, we were thinking a lot about, the binary between inside and outside, but the sound is the one thing that cannot be constrained, right? In a way, it's the most free thing, although the character is physically constrained in this room, the sound is free from the outside. It can come in and can come out. It's the one thing that transgresses the boundaries the most. So that's why we were thinking a lot when we were doing the sound, like how the outside sound can bleed into the inside sound, and it makes her connected to the entire world still, even though she's being confined.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
And regarding the cinematography, what you wanted to do in the visual aspect of the film, you chose black and white, let's say.
Yeah, yeah. In a way, for me, it's also to kind of restrict my, as a filmmaker, to restrict the tools that I have. So color is one of them. Obviously, there are also other restrictions in the film, which is, there are no reverse shot, basically. It's only one shot and one reverse shot. It's set in real time, actually. The whole film unfolds in real time. So these are all like the restrictions that I had for myself so that, I wanted to see things differently, instead of relying on my old tools, which means that I would, start thinking in cliches. But back to the black and white, again, we wanted to look at the binary like in a very strict way, and then from then we move beyond the binary, right? So like, even though there was black and white, we kind of discovered this whole, spectrum of gray. But also when me and my cinematographer were planning the movie, we were very conscious that the visuals had to change, So it couldn't just be chiaroscuro the entire time. So there was a gradation of movement within the film. So it begins in deep darkness and chiaroscuro, and then, it goes to something that's slightly more gray, there's more movement in the light, and then it goes to like kind of a strobe swiveling light, and then it goes to like bright white light, for example. So we wanted the visuals also to have this progression and this story, similarly as a narrative does, so that it brings the viewers along instead of like constrains them. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, okay. And can you tell me a bit how the casting work?
So yeah, Vicky, the person who plays the main character in the film, whose name is Vicky, she has I've been working with her for the last three films, and the last three films are also kind of thematically connected. They deal with history and how, our personal traumas and anguish kind of intersects with these histories. So my last three films, the last two films are Snakeskin, Demons, and now this film, Small House of the Night. So they form kind of a trilogy. I kind of call them the Vicky trilogy because they all three feature Vicky, and she also plays the character whose name is Vicky in all three films. So she's a very important collaborator with me because whenever I have the first concept of a film, she's the first person I go to, and our conversations with each other kind of helps me to develop the films. So it's a very natural collaboration with me and Vicky this time. With Irfan Kazban, who plays opposite Vicky, it's my first time collaborating with him, but he's like a very well known and well-respected person in theater, and also he does like transdisciplinary art. He actually has a lot of he was once a policeman, so actually, my conversations with him as well like kind of helped to develop his character because he's always uncomfortable with being having had the experience of being the policeman. He's uncomfortable with being on the side of authority, and it really helped to make me realize that this character that he's playing needs to have a lot of kind of empathy, actually, and tenderness, despite him being, a person of authority, like an interrogator or a doctor. So I think it really helped to shape the character into a more three-dimensional person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And is it okay if we talk about your work as an editor a bit?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, okay. So can you tell me a bit how was it working in Lad Imagined? I guess that was some years ago, but this was a very famous film, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Chris, I mean, Yossi Hua and I, we've known each other since we were 15. So we are very, very old friends. I think even before either of us started making films. So, we share a lot of common interests, and we both love movies, and so we kind of bonded because we were watching movies together all the time. And when he made his first when he was making a land imagine, he of course he I I'm really glad that he approached me because also I had never edited anybody else's films before that, other than my films. So it was a very interesting process. It was a very fun process, to be honest, because we didn't have much time actually. We only had like probably like 6 weeks, and it was a very intense like editing together, and arguing about every single choice of shot, and plot and dialogue and everything. But I think I've learned a lot from that process, and yeah, it was amazing. And now, subsequently, since then, I've also been editing other people's films, and that actually helps me also myself as a director to see how other people do, you know, make films, and how do other people do it. It really helps me to kind of conceptualize what I am like interested in, and at the same time also learn from some of the things that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. So is it common for you to fight with the director as an editor?
I think the only reason I could fight with Chris so much or with Siu Hua so much is because we know each other so well, we are like really old friends. So I mean we were also fighting not as like editor and director but also as like film lovers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. And tell me a bit about Last Shadow at First Light.
Ah, yes. So that film was with Nicole Midori Woodford, and that was a truly collaborative process because Nicole was not just the director; she was also the co-editor, and so we really, went like every step of the way we were doing it together, and at some points even like she would like edit some scenes separately from me, like we would edit different scenes and we would come together in the end. So, I mean, we had a lot more time for that film, so there was a lot less fighting, of course. But but yeah, it also helps that Nicole had a background in editing. So before she started directing, she was also an editor. So it was very easy in that sense, like technically and also creatively to exchange ideas with her.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Okay. And regarding the last question, I guess regarding your future projects, I read
Yeah.
about other people's dreams. Can you tell me a
Yeah.
bit about that?
Yeah, so Other People's Dreams is quite a different film from Small Hours of the Night because it's going to be a film that's very light, that's very colorful, that has not a lot of dialogue, and that takes place mostly on the streets. So I kind of want to move away from making films that are directly political also. I mean, Other People's Dreams, of course, we'll talk about certain things in Singapore society, but in the form of a love story, for example. So it's going to be a queer love story where, two people from marginalized backgrounds, different marginalized backgrounds, and who are fleeing violence. They meet on the streets because they're trying to survive, and then they fall in love, and that's how it's kind of like like yeah, I wanted to make a happy film finally.
Okay, okay. And as an editor, are you working on anything new?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a few upcoming projects, but I don't know if I can announce it yet. But so yeah, there will
Okay.
be a few projects in the upcoming year or two.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I guess that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Panos.
Okay.